Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into a really important topic that affects many young people. Now, personal safety in our streets, especially considering the increasing concerns around knife crime here in the UK, is becoming out of control. So in today's video, I'll be having a heartfelt and honest debate with my oldest son Gabe about what it's like to navigate safety as a teenager in our ever-changing environment. We'll explore the different perspectives, share personal experiences, and discuss how we can work together as a community to keep each other safe. So, whether you're a parent, a teenager, or just someone interested in the topic, we hope this conversation sparks some thoughts and encourages dialogue about safety and responsibilities. So let's get started. So, as you heard in the introduction, Gabe, we're here to talk about the importance of understanding knife crime and how it impacts local communities. As your dad, I'm constantly worried about you as you're navigating, not just in your hometown of Chester, but also when you're going to places like London, especially due to some of the catastrophic, absolutely horrendous incidents that have been happening over the last couple of months. Yeah. And they continue to happen almost every day. I see on the news or social media another person similar age to you has been killed due to this mindless issue that we've got with knife crime. So I've put together some questions, yeah, and let's see where we go from here.
Okay.
All right, mate?
Yeah.
Okay. So how safe do you feel walking alone in your neighborhood, and what factors influence that feeling?
Okay, so me personally, I feel pretty safe walking around Chester. I think the factors that influence that are that my mum doesn't like me going out at night so much, which is when I think actually a lot of that kind of crime, especially knife crime, happens is at night. So me not going out at night will probably influence how safe I feel walking around Chester.
Yeah. Whilst I don't disagree that a lot of knife crime does happen at night, we also have to be mindful, mate, that daylight knife crime.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at the recent incident in Leicester Square, the two people who were attacked, the mother and her daughter, weren't even from the UK. They were tourists. It happened during the day. Yeah. Thank God that the young girl, although heinously disfigured, didn't lose her life. Yeah. So let's talk about the media coverage of knife crime.
Okay.
How does that affect people like you? You know, young people, and your actual perceptions on safety, not just in your community, but you do travel to London quite a lot.
Yeah. So I do have family members down there. Yeah. Yeah. Media coverage. I think the media, as usual, is quite sensational, and they like to make a story out of everything. Mm-hmm. And knife crime is a very serious issue. There's a lot of stories there, and it does actually, for a fact, scare people.
Mm-hmm.
I think with knife crime necessarily, because it is actually quite scary. The thought of just walking around and randomly, completely at random, wrong place, wrong time, that is actually quite a scary thought. So I think media coverage will help people to be more aware that going into potentially dark alleyway at night in a place you don't know very well, because maybe you're visiting, so you don't live there, so you're not really aware of the area, isn't the best idea unless you have to go.
So for you, what factors impact your decision-making process when you are planning a journey, say?
Okay, so when I'm journeying, I think the big factor, especially in regards to knife crime and other types of crime, not just knife crime, is suspicious people. So people, objects, places as well. Pop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So first you got people. People that look suspicious, people that look like they have malicious intent, they're going around with malicious intentions. They don't want to cause harm to people, people who look like they're easy to cause harm to. So you stay away from those people, look relaxed, confident, aware of your surroundings. They will not see you as an opportunity. They will instead see you as someone that's harder to attack, and therefore they will not attack you.
Okay.
I think that's the big factor.
Yeah. What about things like time of day? How do you think that impacts a person's safety?
Okay, well, not all, because daylight knife crime is a big issue. But most, I would say, knife crime happens at night. And so going around in places you don't know with very few people, if any people around at night, unaccompanied, alone, might not be the best idea.
Yeah.
In terms of safety.
Things like staying in well-lit areas.
Yeah.
Knowing any strategies like escape routes.
Yeah.
Knowing what to do if you feel you're being followed. As you mentioned, people, objects, places is a nice tool to use to enhance your actual situational awareness. It was interesting that you mentioned about sensationalization from mainstream and social media. Do you not think sometimes, though, that the media, through government interference, actually downplay some of the events that happen to actually, in some ways, stop people becoming panicked or overly panicked? Have you seen any occurrences like that? Because I know I have.
Well, I mean, yeah, it would be, in the government's best interest at times, not all times, but at times to quell panic. And so, yeah, I think that does happen.
I agree on necessary panic, but you have to have a balance of not overly sensationalizing things, but also not overly panicking the nation. There has to be an agreeable balance, which is vitally important. Okay, so what about your friends? To what extent do you feel peer pressure, not just from your dynamic circle, but in general, plays in regards to how young people engage in risky behaviour or confrontations on the street? Because we're in a society where people are triggered. Yes, in the media it's all about zombie knives and machetes and amnesties, but in actuality, a lot of the knife crime is kitchen knives that children as young as 7, 8, 9 are stealing from the parents' kitchens. Yeah. So how do you feel peer pressure impacts?
Well, I think due to rap, media, films, TV series like Top Boy and Blue Story and all them, and UK Drill and all those people, it idolizes that kind of lifestyle.
Okay.
So selling drugs, rolling around with knives, stabbing people, being some big-eyed gangster. that has all the respect and all the money and all the nice watches and the nice car and whatever and this motorbike and all that. So a lot of people will look up to that and they will actually want to emulate that themselves. So they will engage in risky behaviours to seem like the man and to gain respect from a lot of people and to gain attention, whether it's positive or negative, because they want to be like people in the media that they idolise.
Okay, so that leads nicely into the next question, because you're absolutely right. There is not just peer pressure, but media pressure, sensationalization on TV series like Top Boy Summer House, all the various other TV series that in some ways tell a tragic story about the realities of gangs, knife crime, drug addiction, etc. But some people view it in a completely different way. But that leads us nicely on to our next question. What measures do you believe could be implemented to improve personal safety for young people in urban areas?
I think just educating people about the fact that, well, like I said before, in an area that you don't know, even in an area that you do know, if you don't need to, why would you go into a non-well-lit area alone, and when there's no one about? There's absolutely no reason to, unless you absolutely have to go through that area. There's no reason to, because it's just unnecessary danger in today's society, where the danger is getting stabbed and going to the cemetery.
Well, it's not just getting stabbed, mate. It's getting taken. It's getting abducted for, worst case scenario, organ harvesting, which still happens. You know, it's getting attacked, not just by a knife, but people, young youths, are quite feral now. So they video things, they think it's a joke. They just beat up on the individual, like 9 or 10 people practicing their 2-foot landings. It's interesting that you mentioned education, though, because how effective do you think schools are in educating you as young people about personal safety and conflict resolution in a calm way without resorting to violence?
I think the message that they want to portray is the right message. They don't want you to get involved in that kind of activity. However, I think the way that they portray it is not potentially the best way. So they don't teach you about, for example, POP, like I mentioned earlier, people, objects, places. That's not.
So what do they teach you?
Strange danger is probably the focal point of all.
Yeah, when you were little.
Yeah.
But I asked you a question, last week? Basically, what do your teachers teach you in regards to an active assailant situation? And you mentioned they basically say just call the police.
Yeah, get the police.
Which is counterproductive, isn't it? Because even if we did have a highly responsive police force, which unfortunately at the moment, due to things like budget, we don't, it'd still take them time. If you're only being taught to just call the police and not take action, which you already know what to do, then people are going to die, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, if it is an active assailant, very similar to the tragic events in Southport.
Yeah.
You know, so do you think that that's enough?
No.
Okay, so if you were king of the hill for the day, what would you do?
Okay, so I would educate people on situational awareness and that phones, looking like this, that your phone is not what you should be doing when you're out and about. You know, there's a time and place to do that at home or with your friends in a nice area. That is not obviously out in the street. Out in the street, walking around is not the place to do that, and you should be aware of your surroundings and any suspicious people around who could be rolling around with malicious intentions.
But unfortunately, it's not just children. You know, we were out today going for a walk in Nantwich.
Yeah.
A lot of adults were doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And as we always have been discussing, you're a product of your environment. So if a younger person sees an older person doing it, they think it's okay because, well, they're doing it. My teacher does it when they're walking around school, so why can't I?
Yeah.
You know, so it's a larger message, really, isn't it? Yeah. But education, you're absolutely right, is vital. That's why we're doing short videos like this, to actually raise awareness due to the educational deficit in this country.
Yeah.
So what about law enforcement? How do you view, generally, not just your relationship with the local police force, but young people in general? Do you think they feel safe and protected? Do you feel that they show the local police force enough respect? What do you think?
No, I think there's complete, especially amongst young people, not so much amongst the older population, but more so amongst young people, there's a complete lack of respect for the police. And I also say that that is, as I mentioned before, again due to, you know, idolising the rappers and the gangsters, and, you know, oh yeah, we don't talk to the feds, man, we're not like that, you know. People want, oh yeah, they're doing it, so we're not, you know, we're going to act the same. We're not going to respect the police because they don't. We idolise that.
I agree.
But then on the flip side, the police also do not, I believe, in today's society, command respect.
That's interesting. Do you want to expand on that element?
Because it's been a long time since this country has seen hardline policing. And if you don't show your power enough, people will not respect you if you're an organisation like the police that's been tasked with protecting society and also enforcing the laws of the land.
Well, let's hold on that point. What do you think are some of the driving factors that police don't show hard power in regards to how they police a community?
I think the modern surge in wokeness is a big factor.
Yeah. But what about in cases like Stephen Lawrence, which was before your time, where he was murdered, knife crime, and his mother, who was an MP, I think she's now a Dame, lobbied for changes in policy. One of those changes was that the police started to do stop searches, that then evolved to one of the sections in the Counter-Terrorism Act. I think it's like Section 43 of the Counter-Terrorism Act. They were specifically targeting impoverished areas. Now, a lot of the demographic of those impoverished areas of London and other cities, as you quite rightly said, a large demographic within those areas was black. Yeah. So when the police started to stop search people, on the various different sections of different acts and start to abuse their powers, then those communities started to revolt. And this happened a number of years ago. Yeah. So that, for me, is another contributing factor. Yeah. Education is an issue, as we just discussed. Government initiatives like amnesties, they're not going to work. Yes, they are going to get certain knives, but that's normally people, as in general pillars of the society, not wanting to get in trouble. So actually handing in knives that they've bought just as a memento or ornament. Yeah. The actual people on the street, it's not going to hit them because they don't care. Yeah. The police, I don't fully agree with you saying they need to use hard power all the time, because in conflict resolution situations, the soft power approach is fundamentally a better route, unless you see that you need to accelerate your use of force. Yeah. But if you saw incidents like the Manchester Airport incident, where the two suspects, because they are still being investigated, they haven't been charged, attacked the police. Yeah. If you look at what the police did right at the end, because he was triggered, he was angry, because he'd just been attacked, he was also armed, to kick the individual when they were down, after they'd been tasered, that could be viewed, and I'm trying to speak as objectively as possible, as misuse of force. And that could get those two individuals off what they'd done before that, because sometimes law's manipulated. So police need a balance. I think you're right in certain factors, but police definitely need a balance. Because some police are quite malicious, like in any walk of life. Some of your teachers you like because they're nice people, they know how to teach well. Some of your teachers you don't like. It's the same with the police. But so consequences of violence. What impact do you think witnessing or experiencing violence has on teenagers like yourself, mental health, and future behaviours?
Okay, so let's touch on experiencing violence first. Obviously, the worst consequence you can have of experiencing violence is death. I think that speaks for itself. Or being dead or being killed. I think that speaks for itself, so we're not going to expand on
you've been dead and been killed?
No, I haven't.
That's what I thought you just said. I'm sorry. Continue.
Okay, so that speaks for itself, so we're not going to expand on that. But then, obviously, you can become paralysed, disfigured, scarred, injured, whatever. And being paralysed, I think, that has a massive, massive impact on your life.
Well, that's physical. What about mental health? Experiencing potentially somebody in front of you, very eyes, having their life taken away from them. Because that's what's happening on a daily basis, and you're old enough to have this type of conversation with.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Well, seeing the light leave somebody's eyes when you're right there, not watching on a video, right there, experiencing that, is going to have a profound impact on your mental health. Because that's something that, if it's your first time seeing it, you've never seen it before.
Yeah.
And
interesting. But what about dialing forward into the future? Things like post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
Things like not wanting to go out anymore, affecting your behavior. You used to be the life and soul of the party, and then suddenly you don't want to leave your room because of what you've seen. You don't want it to happen again. You don't want to see it again. Do you think that impacts?
Yeah, big time, because it increases stress, anxiety, which could lead to depression, could lead to narcotics abuse, alcohol abuse,
Yeah,
things like that.
So what about alternatives to violence? What can we do to improve and implement things like effective strategies for young people to avoid dangerous situations without resorting to violence?
Knowledge is power, so increasing knowledge in regards to young people.
Do you think young people want that knowledge? Because
Some
you
young
said
people,
there's a lot of sensationalization on the television, in the media, on social media, in songs that people hear. What do you think?
well, in the kind of society that we live in, obviously you can't completely ban songs like that.
No, you can't, because it falls under freedom of speech.
Yeah, and you can't ban shows like Top Boy or Blue Story or whatever show. So a lot of people, there's going to be crime, and a lot of people in that kind of life, just that they don't care if they go to prison for the rest of their life, or if they kill somebody, they don't care. So,
well, they don't care before it happens. But if you speak to a lot of people who it's actually happened to, like reformed criminals in the UK and in other parts of the world, those same people are now driving for better regulation, legislation, empowerment of the police, empowerment of community, because they wasted their whole life, for a minimum of 10, 15, 20, sometimes 25 years, And it's those same people that are advocating for this change, So what about parents like me, like your mum? How much do you think parental involvement influences teenagers' ability to navigate safety issues in the community?
well, there's two sides to that. The first side is not, well, I'm talking in regards to actually raising a child, which does play a big impact into child's behaviours later in life. There's two sides. You've got the first side, there is not caring whatsoever, letting your child do whatever they want when they're older, let them go out whenever they want, do whatever they want, what time they come back, they don't care. The other side is complete opposite flip. You've got parents who micromanage every single part of their child's life from birth until, well, when they leave home, which is 18, maybe older.
For some people, it's 26, 27.
Yeah. So I think both sides will lead to
So what's the
worse
balance
decisions later in life.
What's the balance?
I think that's a good question, because the balance is different for every person. Because some people, some children, will do better with a more hands-off approach. Some children need rigid guidance with a more hands-on approach.
Let's dive back in.
The spectrum.
Yeah. So let's dive back into what you mentioned about parents not caring.
Yeah.
Do you think it's parents not caring, or parents being driven to have to work more to actually provide the basic life support for their families due to the increase in things like our current economy in the UK?
I think it's a bit of both, because there are parents who work multiple jobs and they basically devote themselves to work to provide for their family, because cost of living crisis, they don't have much money, this and that. But I have also seen first-time parents who just don't care about it.
Yeah, me also.
Yeah.
And normally those parents acted the same when they were younger, and possibly still do when they're in or out of prison, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Okay, mate. That's been an inspiring initial discussion for the playlist that we're creating, which are topics that really matter to us. You know, as you've known for about the last 3 years since you've been 13, we've had debates. Yeah. Now it's time to use those debates and our back and forth agreement or disagreement with each other to actually try and make a difference. Okay. So those who've watching, thank you so much for watching this. As I mentioned, this is the first of a selection of debates that myself and my oldest son Gabriel, and hopefully in the not too distant future, my youngest son Liam can get involved in. Yeah. If you liked the content that we're creating, please subscribe. Comment if you have anything else to add. And ding that bell to get further notifications. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Cheers, mate.
Thank you, Dad.
Welcome.